Hey y'all. Well, I wasn't going to do anything on this thing tonight, but because I worked out about 9 hours out here yesterday. But we had some storms come through today, and it dropped the temperature down to 77 degrees. So it's like, well, I got to take advantage of this. We're supposed to have 100 tomorrow and Thursday. So I might get out here some then too, but we'll see. So I just want to do a little bit tonight, kind of continue on this door modification. So what I did before I started the recording, I don't know if you can see down here, but this bottom lip was pretty ate up. So I showed yesterday I had made this piece. Well, I made this piece and tacked that in there tonight, so that's all good and solid. I cut this piece out. That's what was there, and like I showed you yesterday, it's been pretty bad, about to go through, and it's got a good 1/4 inch of filler in it there. So I cut a patch piece for it, and if you look, that's got kind of a little bit of a bevel to it. So I don't have a tube roller. So what I did was I got this this little drive shaft. I took this and just kind of put this up against here, and you can kind of see where the bend started. It was about 2/3 from the top down is where it started to lay over. So I've marked that and then laid it on here and just kind of put some pressure on it and rolled it back and forth, and it matched that curve up pretty good. And I tried it on here, and it looks pretty good. So one other thing I did, I don't know if you noticed yesterday, but I had this hole cut right here in the middle of the panel, and the reason I did that is if you look at this body line, it's all the same size up to here, and then the size changes, it drops down. So when I cut this longer panel off the other door, I was into this. So I had to notch that back, and the piece that I cut off at this door, I cut out of this, the bigger part of the body line. I got a little piece sitting there with my magnet. We're going to tack that in too. These little magnets are great for holding stuff in until you drop them in a pile of metal shavings, and then they get metal shavings all over them, and you try to wipe them off, and you get metal shavings in your finger, and it's kind of a pain. But they work good. Just keep them out of the metal shavings. So what we're going to do here, we're going to fire up the old trusty Clark, and I'm going to clamp this on here where it looks like it needs to go. And we're just going to do a few tacks to hold this in place until we get back and finish welding. Lined up over here. It looks lined up, the gap looks good. Let's keep moving on, man. Put a little pressure on the bottom. It's good. So I got my MIG set on 2. Got the wire speed about 3 on this thing, which is where it seems to work pretty good. And we're just going to do a couple just to hold this in place. Usually when I weld these thin panels in, I know some guys will switch to a lighter wire. I usually don't. I usually use 30 for just about everything, unless I'm getting into, you know, something really heavy, and then I'll use 35. But I just do little tacks far apart. to keep that panel cool. You keep the heat out of it and it won't warp. So just do those and go back, you know, in between those. Keep checking it, make sure it's not getting warm. I've seen other guys using that method on YouTube, and it works really well. Here. Push this in just to get that lined up perfectly as I can before you. Look up and down this line. This all looks good. Everything's lining up nice. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you make a mistake and you got to cut it loose, don't worry about it. I think I cut this thing loose 2 or 3 times yesterday before I got it lined up where I wanted to. It's easier to do that and get it straight and get it right than to try to build it up with a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch of body filler. You know, I only want to use the filler that I have to make it smooth and nice. And nobody wants to buy a car from me that's all full of body filler. Good. That's little tacks. Go around the back here, like this, and put a couple back here, just a little bit. I made this panel a little bit longer because, you know, the factory panel lays over and folds around that edge. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. Sometimes you end up really tearing that thing up trying to do that. So sometimes you just cut it off flush and put a small bead of weld over there. Maybe you can put another layer back here to kind of simulate that fold over, and then clamp those together and just weld the edge of those 3 pieces together, and then take your grinding wheel with a flapper disc on it and smooth that out. So there's no right way or wrong way. There's, you know, try it, do what works for you. All right, put a couple back here. Like I said, this is just to hold it in place. We'll come back in a little bit later and do the finish welding and make it pretty. But it's pretty good. Okay, let's put a couple on this piece up here. Actually, I'm going to go down to a 1 up here on my welder because This piece is a little thinner than that, and I've got a little bit of a gap around it, so I don't want to blow a hole in it. I'm just putting a few on there to hold it where it needs to be, make sure it's lined up. We'll finish it off later. Okay, looks pretty good. All right. So that's all we're doing on this one right now. I'll pick this up again probably tomorrow evening. It'll all be on the same video. And then when I get 20 minutes or so, then we'll go ahead and publish it. But that's where we are for today. Hey y'all, okay, so here's what we're doing tonight on this thing. I'm trying to get this B-pillar located where it needs to be. So what I did was, here's where the B-pillar was. I had to put a piece of plate in there. I think that's like, it's a little less than 3/16 to plug that hole. And then back here is where the B-pillar is going to be located. So it had a little bit of a step down there. I think you can see it. So I welded that piece in there so that I could bring that up and make that level. Now I went ahead and put the door latch in, and I just clipped the B-pillar on the door latch. And then down here on the bottom, I just wedged a piece of cardboard up in there just to kind of gap that off of the door so it's not touching the door anywhere when we tack this thing into place. So the goal is get this tacked into place. It's actually a two-piece B-pillar. So you've got this piece, and it'll weld here on the front and on this back edge. But then you've got this piece, which once it's in there is like a bottom support to the floor, and it'll weld in there like that, and it's got that foot that goes down on the floor and steadies it. Now it was right here, and right there's a pretty heavy duty brace under the floor, and it's gonna go back here, which there's not. So once I get that all in place, get it solid, I'm gonna have to build a little box section of support and probably tie it to this support under the floor just to give that some good stability. You know, try to give it as much stability as it had when it was over here. So, all right, I'm going to put the camera over here and see if we can get this thing kind of tacked into place. Looks like it's gonna work pretty good there. My gap is good. I'm lined up on the rocker. The inner edge of the pillar is not actually touching the door anywhere, so I shouldn't have any interference problems. I'm probably gonna have to make some different brackets and stuff to really sturdy this up, but I think going with that for an initial start is gonna work. Got my welder turned up to about 3 because we're on a little thicker metal here. And what do we want? it should hold it in place. Let's see what we got. Good. Get the toe. There it goes. Okay. So, getting the latch good. In contact with the actual door post. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do from there, I'm going to make some braces for this part here. Get those tacked in, a few tacks here. Check it again, make sure it's not moving. Brace back here, and then put the foot on it. And I think that's gonna do that. And then once we've got that on, then it's time to start working on this quarter panel, cutting this door skin down and figuring out exactly how I'm going to do the window regulators. Up here, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Basically, I'm just lengthening the arm on the regulator, cutting a longer piece of glass. Back here, it's going to be a little more of a challenge because the front of this door where this glass regulator was is going to be gone. So I'm going to figure out how to the back will still be there. I'm going to figure out how to relocate that. So once I've got this door skin quarter panel on, and I want to get this glass right and get it to where it'll roll up and it'll lock in right like they do on the hardtop, and have all that roughed in before I start on that other side. So the reason for that is I want to keep that side together, so I've got a reference. I can take that apart and look how that glass fits together, how those door regulators work together, and have something to look at till I get this side done and working. And then once this is done, then we'll move over and do the same on the other side. So that's all for this video. Make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, and hit share. Share this with somebody. And I really appreciate y'all tuning in, and catch you on the next one.